Okay, we'll call the Tuesday, March 23rd Planning Commission meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Changes to the agenda?
None, Chairman.
Okay, roll call, please.
Chairman Saylor,
Here.
Vice Chairman Jacob,
Here.
Commissioner Helmar,
Here.
Commissioner Garza,
Here.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Here.
Okay, moving right along to public comments under Government Code 54954.3. Members of the audience may address the commission on any item of interest to the public or on any agenda item before or during the commission's consideration of the item. State law prohibits the Planning Commission from acting on non-agenda items. Do we have any public comments?
Chairman, I'm seeing no comments at this time.
All righty, then we will move right along to the information and consent calendar. There are two items. One, approval of the minutes from the February 9th, 2021 meeting and approval of minutes from the February 23rd, 2021 meeting. If there's no need for discussion, the chair will entertain a motion.
Chairman, I noticed on the 2023 minutes, it listed Curtis Elliott as speaking in opposition to the resolution when in fact, I believe he spoke.
No. That was the Elliott, if you go, Curtis Elliott did speak in opposition. He was the neighbor. He wasn't one of the owners of the property. If you go farther down, the other Elliott is on there speaking in favor of it.
Okay, because I thought both Elliots were in favor. Okay.
I think
But
there was
couldn't
only
remember.
one
I couldn't
Elliott
find
at
my
the
notes.
meeting, but there may have been two Elliots within the area spoke.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. The Curtis Elliott was opposed and Nicholas Elliott was in favor.
Okay. Okay.
Perfect.
Then I have no, I would motion to approve them.
Commissioner Helmer made the motion to approve. Does the motion have a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Garza made the second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Moving right along to public hearings. We have two items. The first one being Planning Commission consideration of Conditional Use Permit 21-02 and further adopting resolution number 021P-003 for the development of a new commercial cannabis cultivation and distribution facility.
Thank you, Chairman. And I apologize, you can't see me. I'm a little bit wide tonight, but I am here. So tonight, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt resolution 021P-003 with conditions for the development of a new commercial cannabis facility to be located at 1921 Mercantile Lane. On February 17th, the Community Development Department received an application for the development of a commercial cannabis cultivation facility with distribution. The intended use of the industrial building will be for commercial cannabis cultivation with nursery and distribution operations. And just to give a little additional background, this was a project submitted by Next Green Wave or NGWB LLC, Crossgate Capital US Holdings Corp. This project originally had a site plan review approval quite a few years ago. If you recall, Mr. Jennings and his group they were kind of the first ones in here at the industrial park when we had the initial the urgency ordinance. And so at that time, the project was approved. They were kind of approved through a by right process, which was the site plan review. However, the project hadn't moved fully through its development process as they were building their first phase of their project, which took a little bit longer than they expected due to some of the PG&E issues and some of the other things that they fleshed out. And so typically site plan reviews they typically last a year. And so it's more of that kind of imminent development type application. And so since then, we've implemented our permanent ordinance. We've gone through the process. And now, as we know, there are conditional use permit requirements, the regulatory permit requirements. And then, so we're kind of rehashing per se, the site plan. They have revamped it a little bit now that they know exactly how their building now operates across the street. And so the site plan is pretty consistent with what was originally proposed, but we had to talk with the applicant and said, hey, we got to go through this process. And so we added the additional conditional use permit component. So this probably will seem a little familiar to you guys. But as you know, we have the conditional use permit that's required for commercial cannabis operations, as well as the site plan review for basically any kind of new development. And so this is kind of what we're reviewing here. And then we also have the sequel review, which it constitutes a project. And therefore, we've prepared just an environmental analysis for this particular project, as well as incorporating city department comments related to the design and build of this project. And so the facility will house in separate areas a nursery, cultivation, and distribution activity. This is almost a mirror image of what's currently out there at Next Green Wave, although there is a second story with additional office space and administration, as well as their flowering rooms. And so it's a little bit bigger building than what's currently there. And so the nursery area, the facility will be dedicated to production and development of clones geared towards supplying flower cultivators with clone stock. The flowering areas, which is the cultivation area of the facility, will be dedicated to the cultivation and processing of flowers from pre-flower to post-harvest. And then the distribution areas of the facility will be dedicated to the secure storage and sale of finished flowers and nursery stock. The area will include 2 dedicated storage areas and the distribution office where sales will be handled and products will be prepared for sale and shipping. When flowers and nursery stock are processed, finished, and ready for sale, they will be added to the distribution inventory list and sold. So in terms of some of the following components, is the 50,000 square foot total floor space is 62,000 square feet, 281 with the second floor. The commercial nursery space is approximately 4,000 square feet with cultivation space of approximately 20,000 square feet, distribution space of 14,887 or 1,487, and then office space of 6,962. In terms of general plan consistency, the general plan designation for the parcel is MB, which is manufacturing and business, with an MBL, which is the manufacturing and business light zoning designation. The project proposal is consistent with all the development regulations for commercial cannabis developments, in addition to the issuance of a city's cannabis regulatory and state permit. Currently, the applicant has a commercial cannabis regulatory permit application under review with the police department at this time. In terms of surrounding land uses, you have agriculture to the north, and then we have industrial property to the south, west, and east of that property. In terms of site plan, there are 4 findings when we look at site plan reviews, is that the proposed construction alterations are in substantial conformance with the general plan, zoning ordinance, and any applicable zones adopted by the city, or plans adopted by the city. The construction alterations conform to the requirements of the applicable zoning districts. The proposed construction alteration conforms to all applicable design standards and guidelines. And the construction alteration will not have a significant adverse effect to the public health, safety, and welfare. In terms of our analysis of this particular project, we've talked about there are several development regulations that staff reviews prior to recommending approval of a site plan review application. The site plan application has to be reviewed for compliance with the Clean Planning and Zoning Code and must meet all the applicable requirements for the proposed use. So in terms of access, the primary access to the development will be located on Mercantile Lane at the southeast corner of the property. However, in rare instances, the northwest corner of the property on Enterprise will be used as well. Both locations shall be used for ingress and egress, and according to the fire department and city engineer, there's adequate space on site for public safety, maneuvering, and access. And as you can see, probably from the design on this one, it's very similar to what's currently in place, and we have not had any issues at those locations in terms of access. In terms of emergency building access, the applicant has proposed emergency access from the building to the public right-of-way on Enterprise Parkway, which will be restricted from being accessed from Enterprise and used in case of an emergency. So basically exit only. Due to the size of the building and due to the layout of the floor plans, those exits are kind of at the end of long hallways. And so having those additional emergency exits were important to ensure that we have the proper egress in case of any type of emergency. In terms of utilities, on-site stormwater drainage runoff shall run to the existing storm drain facilities at Enterprise Parkway and Mercantile Lane. And as a condition of approval, it'll be responsibility of the applicant to confirm sufficient capacity exists in the storm water basin serving the site. In terms of the gas, natural gas is available in Mercantile Lane and Enterprise Parkway and available to serve the development. Public water facilities exist in Mercantile Lane and Enterprise Parkway and are available to serve the development as well. And the applicant shall extend a water service to the project site. Public sewer facilities exist, are in Mercantile Lane and Enterprise Parkway and are available to serve the development as well. And they'll make sure they need to extend those sewer laterals depending on where the connection point will be. In terms of meters, there shall be meters for both water and natural gas, which will be identified on the final site plan when submitting the planning department for final approval. There will be separate landscape and domestic meters in order to differentiate between landscape water and domestic water per city policy. Since this is a secure facility, meters shall be located outside the secured area and gas meters shall be placed in a location that are protected from damage. And if gas meters are located on site within the secured area, the applicant shall work with the Public Works to determine the best practice for reading meters. There's also a man gate that they typically have, so it's easy access. And with security personnel, we typically have not had any issues with reading meters at these locations. In terms of parking, the parking standard for these facilities is 1,000 or 1 stall per 1,000 square feet, and the proposed development has met the requirement by providing 59 parking stalls. The proposed development provides for the required refuse containers and their size, shape, and location and are consistent with that of the city requirements. In terms of landscaping, the proposed landscaping exceeds the city's minimum requirement for landscape areas as it relates to site frontage, parking, highway setbacks, and equipment screening. The separate landscape plan will be submitted to the Community Development Department for review and approval prior or at the time of building permit issuance. In terms of fencing, all interior fencing shall be material allowed under the Planning and Zoning Code, and all fencing adjacent to the public rights-of-way will be a combination of wrought iron and landscape or of decorative block material. So the proposed project is within 200 feet of a state highway, and it shall provide a landscape area within 15 feet deep between the highway right-of-way and any building or parking area for the length of the site frontage facing toward the highway. The applicant has provided the adequate setback from the state highway and will provide the required 2 15-gallon trees for every 25 feet of site frontage toward the highway. And since there are parking facilities located within 50 foot of and visible from the state highway, there must be screened by a wall or berm at least 2 feet, at least 2.5 feet high, and then basically there's the wrought iron on top. So you guys have seen that detail, the details on the site plan as well. In terms of landscaping, or lighting, I'm sorry, lighting has been reviewed and approved by the police department to ensure there will be no spillover lighting. The police department is recommending as part of the conditions of approval that the site meet or exceed the standard of 1.5 foot candle of light within the site to ensure adequate lighting. A photometric plan shall be provided and reviewed and approved by the police chief prior to the certificate of occupancy being issued. In terms of signage, we don't allow any signage for commercial cannabis operations except unless it's either federally or state required in terms of like, employment type signage or hazardous material type signage or ADA signage, those types of things. But anything related to cannabis operations are limited in these facilities. And in terms of offsite improvements, the applicant shall furnish and install offsite sidewalk, driveway approaches, and street lighting on Mercantile Lane and Enterprise Parkway frontage as approved by the city engineer. And then the applicant shall furnish and install offsite public AC, curb and gutter, sidewalk, and lighting for the property frontage along Polk on 33 in accordance with Caltrans construction requirements. Streetlights shall be installed at 150-foot spacing along Polk Jane Avenue. So in terms of the conditional use permit analysis, we look at similar things, but this looks more towards the operations to ensure that it's not going to create a public health and safety concern. When we talk about cultivation, we know we've seen that what cultivation means, the activity involving the planting, growing, harvesting, drying, curing, grading, and trimming of cannabis. And the cultivation site means a location where commercial cannabis is planted, grown, harvested, dried, cured, graded, or trimmed, or a location where any combination of those activities occur. And then in terms of distribution, the applicant will distribute only cannabis goods, and they will ensure that all cannabis good batches are stored separately and distinctly from other cannabis goods batches on the licensed distributor's premises. This address is 1921 Mercantile Lane. We did provide copies of the map and the floor plans for you guys' review. In terms of security, the applicant's site protection strategy will address all forms of security concerns and will be required to meet all the security requirements of the Planning and Zoning Code as it relates to the commercial cannabis activity. The police department has reviewed and verified that the security plan, including camera placements, access control, on-site and perimeter security, meet the requirements of the code to the satisfaction of the police chief. In terms of building access, all employees and authorized personnel will enter the building at designated entry area after checking with security personnel at the site entrances who will grant authorization into the facility. In terms of odor control, in order to control odor while producing at the above capacity and remaining compliant with the Plan and Zoning Code, the facilities will be equipped with both negative pressure and mass filtration systems. Odor control systems will be checked and replaced as necessary to prevent odor from escaping the facilities and becoming a nuisance to the applicant's neighbors. And they're looking to use the same system that they're using out at the existing facility, and we have not received any complaints, nor have we had any issues in terms of previous inspections that have occurred at that facility. They're expected to have about 100 employees. This will be on and off kind of harvest time, so it's not going to be all the time having those 100 employees. They're going to be operating Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. and on Saturdays and Sundays from 7 a.m. to 4:30. So it's pretty much a 7-day-a-week operation. And this facility will be accommodated by 59 parking stalls as shown on the site plan. In terms of water use, the total water use for the facility is expected to be 1.4 acre foot. Sorry. This will not have an impact on the city's ability to deliver water even in years when allocation is reduced. And we've seen that the water use of these facilities are extremely low. We've done some tours of the facility since they've been up and running, and it's amazing how much water they're recycling. They're recycling, I mean, and I think Mike's on the call as well, but they're using almost 90% of the water. I mean, there's not much being discharged into the sewer system at all. So they are being very efficient with the use of water. And to their benefit, I mean, water's not cheap. So we've seen that they've been able to utilize a lot of the extra, and because they're using the condensate from the air conditioning units, and so they're really utilizing all of the water that comes in, not just the water that's coming in from the city's service. In terms of fuel storage and potential hazardous materials, the applicant just is required to meet with the fire marshal and building official to determine the level of safety protections required based on the desired storage of solvents and any other hazardous materials. And so that communication has stayed open with the fire department in relation to any kind of chemicals or anything that they have on site. The applicant will not introduce any toxic chemical waste or solvents into the local waste stream and will not be required to disclose any products, chemicals, solvents, active ingredients that will be used as part of any of the extraction or refinement process. In terms of and from what we've experienced, we have not seen any change in effluent that's coming or influent that's coming into the wastewater plant since these facilities have been open. So we're not seeing any drastic changes or any kind of material that's coming in that we can't treat. So far we're not seeing any foreign substances that we're not able to treat. And then in terms of solid waste, we have not had any issues with the solid waste hauler getting access. They're typically in a location where the solid waste hauler is able to access in coordination with the applicant. In terms of public notification, on March 11th, public hearing notice were sent to all property owners within 300 feet of the site. And in terms of environmental review, we determined that this project supports the finding that it qualifies for a categorical exemption under infill projects. And so we've provided some of the characteristics of what infill development states is that the project is consistent with the applicable general plan designation and all applicable general plan policies. The proposed development occurs within city limits on a project site no more than 5 acres. The project has no value of habitat for endangered, rare, or threatened species. Approval of the project would not result in any significant effects relating to traffic, noise, air quality, or water quality. And the site can be adequately served by all required utilities and public services. These are kind of similar findings that we see even in conditional use permits and site plan reviews for any kind of development. So we've talked about the reasons for recommendation is we feel that the project can meet the criteria for site plan approval we discussed earlier, and then also the 3 findings for the conditional use permit, which is general plan consistency, neighborhood compatibility, and asset for the neighborhood. So if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any of them if you have any. That is my report. And again, Chairman, this is a public hearing.
We'll go ahead and open the public hearing as of right now. Public hearing is open for anybody wanting to speak for or against this proposal. Commissioner Pruitt, do you have any questions?
I'm gonna probably have some in a little bit, but the first question I want to ask is, this is a 50,000 square foot building. How does that compare to the one that's already there that they have?
I think the one they have now is about 30,000 or 36,000 square feet. I can find out, or I could even, I think Michael Jennings is on the call too.
35,000. You put it in the chat.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
That's close, in between.
All right. That's my first question for now. I'll have more, but not just yet.
Commissioner Garza.
I'm looking at this parking area. Is the north part of the parking area, is that an entrance to that, or is it an exit?
It's both.
Both?
I mean, it's going to be primarily an exit just due to the median that's there, and that's why I think when I put on the access description, in some instances it may become an entrance if someone's coming down Enterprise going north. If they happen to drive through and they come in, but primarily it's going to be used most likely as an exit for most folks.
Yeah, because I was wondering, it looked like it was kind of tight because you have to make a U-turn to get in.
Yeah, no, the primary exit's going to
Island.
be at the main entrance off of Mercantile.
Okay. Only-
Commissioner Helmer.
I was just wondering how many employees the existing operation has at this time? And is it fully staffed?
Let me open the chat so you guys can see too.
Okay. Looks like what?
It says 60
60 employees.
Okay,
and fully staffed.
okay. That's my only question. Thank you.
Vice Chair Jacobs.
Just with distribution, that's for wholesale use. So we're talking not to the public, right?
No. Yeah, distribution is primarily in between they'll either distribute directly to or sell to a retail facility for their cut flower, because they do trimming at these facilities. And so they'll be able to go within the realms of what distribution can and can't do and what cultivation can and can't do, but there's nothing publicly sold.
That's what.
These
Okay.
are contractual sales
I see. Okay.
with other licensed either retailers, cultivators. So
Okay. Yeah. No, we've gotten to tour the other one. I thought they did a wonderful job out there, and I think this is the place where this stuff belongs. So yeah, I like the idea of this.
No further? No. There's 59 parking stalls, and then there might be 100 people during harvest. How long does harvest last? And would it be staggered shifts? Because I noticed, or would all 100 people be there for the 12 hours?
I don't imagine, I'm not sure. Yes, staggered shifts.
Okay, perfect.
There you
All
go.
righty then.
Right from the applicant's chat.
Perfect. Are there any public comments?
I have a couple more questions also.
Okay.
Okay, so my first question is, if this is approved, when do you anticipate being able to get up and running? And do you foresee running into any problems with PG&E like you did with the last one? Okay, so the PG&E, the power's already there. And when do you foresee having it finalized and ready for use? End of Q1 2022, plants in the ground. Nice. And then my next question is, how much are you paying in taxes to the city on the 35,000 square foot plant that you already have? Sean has that.
Yeah, give me a second.
Okay.
He may know what it is, but, oh, I have that. Okay. I didn't- All right, give me a second. I can let you know. Let's see, 1920 Mercantile.
I had a question too.
So their 2021 tax revenue raising fee is $124,800 per year for taxes.
Okay. And are we expecting this one to bring, to raise more revenue for the city?
Yeah, it'll probably be slightly more because I think the cultivation space is a little bit larger than what's currently at the other facility. So it says 20,000 square feet of cultivation space, but doesn't necessarily mean exactly 20,000 square feet. 'Cause
Right.
canopy. So
Okay.
we haven't
Yeah.
calculated out the taxes yet exactly based on canopy. Typically, we get that a little bit later once they. So it could be a difference. If it's a difference of 6,000, as Mike's looking at, it could be that could be the net difference of 6,000 because 14,000 is probably not what exactly is being taxed.
Yeah, I wasn't looking for exact. I was just looking for an idea to get that out there. But I do, the facility they have there is nice. The fact that, you say there have been no complaints. I think there might have been a complaint before they even had PG&E or any plants, but clearly it wasn't from anything they were doing. And no, I like it out there. I like this project. Thank you for the information.
Okay. The employees that you're running out there, are they W-2 based employees? You use a payroll service? No reason I asked, I had some people coming in earlier in the year and they wanted to buy a house, and a lot of the guidelines for some of these government loans would not fund these loans being kind of the business it's in. And I was wondering, some of the questions came up, whether they were owners or 1099 employees or what have it. Could you clarify that a little bit?
Mr. Jennings, would you prefer that I unmute you?
Am I muted?
Hello.
There he is.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, excellent. So yes, they're all on payroll service, and I believe everyone is W-2'd.
I think they're going to try and make some changes. Fact was, I had some of these employees that worked in the cannabis industry, and the federal government was not recognizing this as viable income, and these people were not able to buy a home here in Kalinga. And then it got into whether they're W-2'd or being 1099 or whatever. So I was just curious about it. I didn't expect to make any changes in it, but good to know.
Yeah, they're all W-2'd, and that issue with being able to get loan service is changing rapidly in what I've seen, and I believe that there are several lenders coming into the market that are bypassing that issue. So it's getting better, and we've heard, I've talked to some of our employees about that. Some have had problems and some have been able to get it done. So, and I've actually been talking with Tanya Stevens at Midstate Realty about this as well. And she's working on some solutions because obviously she wants to sell houses.
Very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments? Not seeing any, so we will go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. If there's no need for any further discussion from any of the commissioners, the chair will entertain a motion.
I'll motion.
I heard Commissioner Garza make the motion. Does the motion have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Pruitt made the second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Garza,
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Helmar,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Jacobs,
Aye.
Chairman Saylor,
No. Moving right along, motion carries 4-1. The second item under public hearings, Planning Commission consideration of conditional use permit 21-03, further adopting resolution number 021P-004, approving a height exemption to the proposed ball field lights at the Kalinga Youth Sports Complex. Sean.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. On March 9th, the Community Development Department received a conditional use permit application from the Kalinga Huron Parks and Recreation District requesting a height exception to their proposed ball field lights in the Kalinga Youth Sports Complex at 437 Cambridge Avenue. Staff accepted the application on March 10th and began processing the application. The process for review of conditional use permit applications is designed to evaluate possible adverse impacts and minimize them from where possible through the imposition of special conditions. This involves special consideration to uses and exceptions to development standards to ensure that they can be designed, located, and operated in a manner that will not interfere with the use and enjoyment of the surrounding properties. The applicant was approved for the development of multiple ball fields, soccer fields, concessions, and restroom facilities. At the time of the approval, did not submit a ball field lighting plan, although the plans were to eventually have lighting. The applicant is proposing to add lighting to two of the existing Little League and softball fields located at the northeast corner of the youth sports complex. The CHRPD is requesting a height exception to the CMC section 9-4206 related to the maximum height for on-site and street lighting fixtures. Section 9-4206 limits the maximum height of lighting fixtures to 50 feet in the recreation zoning designation. The applicant is proposing two 70-foot lights and 9 60-foot lights at the Kalinga Youth Sports Complex ball fields in an effort to reduce the number of lighting fixtures needed to light each ball field. To allow the additional height of lights, a CUP shall be approved by the Planning Commission in accordance with 9-4205A1 of the Plan and Zoning Code related to the height and height exceptions. Exceptions may be granted with the approval of a conditional use permit. The sports complex is located in the recreation zoning designation, which allows for public and private recreational facilities, including but not limited to public parks, golf courses, and equestrian centers, including the use of lighting. The issuance of conditional use permit for this exception is consistent with that of the general plan, land use goals and policies, and zoning regulations. The project site is located at 437 Cambridge Avenue. Cambridge Avenue has a mix of residential and public facilities along the corridor, which is not anticipated to be impacted by the proposed use due to its setbacks and recreational uses. So to the north, we have the granite extraction facility. To the south, we have residential and public facilities, which is the school campuses. To the east, we have open space and recreation, and to the west, we have oil fields. And staff's determined that there's no land use compatibility or transitional concerns related to the placement and approval of this use. Public hearing notices were sent to all property owners within 300 feet of the site as required by state and local law. Staff has determined that this project approval is not a project under CEQA, as there is no anticipated impacts from the installation of lights and increased height, as this project has been analyzed in accordance with CEQA and lighting standards were addressed at the current height standards were not, and lighting standards were addressed and the current height standards were not in place at the time of the original approvals. So in terms of reasons for recommendation, there's three findings that need to be made. One is general plan consistency. The proposed increase in height from the development standards is not inconsistent with that of the general plan or other city policies. Lighting enhances the ability of the use and at the same time does not conflict with any standards related to lighting, glare, and nuisance lighting to adjacent properties. This furthers the general plan goals to provide diverse recreational opportunities for its residents. In terms of neighborhood compatibility, the increase in height from 50 to 60 and 70 feet respectively with the issuance of a conditional use permit would be consistent with the intended purpose of the zoning district where the sports complex is located. The applicant provided a photometric plan that demonstrates that there will be no spillover lighting to the adjacent residential neighborhood and surrounding properties with an increase in height. It shows a 0.0 foot candle of light at 3 feet above grade at 150 feet from the edge of the ball fields. The lighting with the use of shields will be directed to illuminate the ball fields where other pedestrian-style lighting will illuminate walkways, concessions, and restroom facilities. The ball fields are approximately 500 feet from the nearest residential property. In addition, the lighting regulations ensure limited impact to surrounding areas by limiting recreational activities illumination to specific hours of the evening with few exceptions. And then the last finding is the asset to the neighborhood. Adding lighting to the sports complex will increase the use of the ball fields and lend to its full potential as a full-service sports complex as originally intended. By equipping the sports complex with lighting, it enhances the successful operation of the surrounding area and its basic community functions and provides an essential service to the community and the region without sacrificing the health, safety, and welfare of the surrounding neighborhood. So with that, that concludes my report. And if the commission has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. I'm not sure if anybody from the Parks and Recreation District is on the call.
This is another public hearing, so we will go ahead and open up the public hearing for anybody wishing to speak for or against this permit. That being said, Vice Chair Jacobs, do you have any questions?
Sean, is the elevation there actually lower than what we have on the street to the south of it?
That I do not know what the grade difference is from the ball fields to Cambridge.
Yeah, it seemed like there's 10 feet to me. I could be off, but it seemed like it sits down a little bit. So I don't see any reason why this would be a problem either.
Yeah, and honestly, when we do these zoning standards, I don't even know if 50 foot is like reasonable, because I've seen other ball fields and there's a lot of those lights are a lot higher than 50 feet. So, I mean, our standard street lights are about 30 some odd feet. So in order to light a ball field, it needs to be pretty high.
Yeah.
But the new LED technology is very directional in terms of where it illuminates.
Yeah. That it. Commissioner Helmer.
Do you know what the height of the lights at the skate park is?
I do not.
And one of the reasons for doing this is that it would reduce the number of poles that would actually need to be. How many 50-footers would be needed if this were not approved? Do you know?
That was not informed by the applicant what the number would be.
Okay. What hours would these be in operation?
Typically dark, and the code allows no later than 11 o'clock.
Okay, and would this approval of this CUP set any kind of precedent for them for the remaining fields? 'Cause
No.
there's 3 or 4 other.
No, they would need to submit for additional CUP for the other lights, because we do require the submission of the photometric plan showing the spill light on the site.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Garza.
I have no questions.
Okay, Commissioner Pruitt.
I have no questions.
All righty, it does not appear that anybody wants to speak on this. So we will go ahead and close the public meeting. If there's no need for any further discussion, the chair will entertain a motion.
I'll motion it.
Vice Chair Jacobs made the motion. Does the motion have a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Garza made the second. Roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Jacobs,
Yes.
Commissioner Garza,
Yes.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Helmar,
Yes.
Chairman Saylor.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving right along to discussion and/or potential action items. I have a question. I have a question regarding the Zoom and regarding the Zoom chat after last meeting. Does whoever is chairing the meeting, do they have control over the chat? Because there was nonsense going on. Not at this meeting. I mean, but does the chair have power to either kick somebody out of the meeting, because I'm pretty sure you can do that, or to silence somebody?
That would be up to the mayor, I think, because the mayor runs the meeting. I'm not sure on whether or not chat can be disabled or enabled, but that would definitely come from the mayor who runs the meeting to direct however they want to run the meeting.
Sean,
I'm-
the Zoom, the way it works is whoever creates the link, they can disable the chat because we use it at school and our teachers have it disabled so that there is no chat at all, so that nothing inappropriate happens in the chat.
Yeah, so that would,
At
I
the
mean, there would
school
have to be
setting.
direction from the mayor to do those. So if there is the capability of it, that would be their direction.
So whoever's chairing the meeting
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
Because
is my understanding.
the
But I don't know.
okay.
I don't know. I mean, if it depends on, but that would be up to the mayor, I imagine, to who runs the meeting, whether chat would be disabled or enabled.
Okay.
Sean,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a comment that I believe Commissioner Pruitt is correct. I believe I've seen that when the meetings are originally set up, that is something that you can toggle on and off. So
Yeah, it's in the master settings of whoever's account is creating the link.
Yeah. So we'd have to just get direction on how that would work.
Yeah.
correct.
I personally feel that that should probably be disabled at all times. Because there was nonsense last meeting. And the fact that it was, well, we'll leave it at that.
The last planning?
Yes, by an elected official of this city, no less. So,
Would,
that,
would you have the authority then to do that?
that's what I was getting clarification on.
Yeah.
I mean, I think to err on the side of caution, I think it would just be best just to disable the chat, depending on who's on. I mean, I had no problem with the chat being used tonight. I mean, it was a little slow, but when you have somebody that's publicly speaking and somebody's on the chat demeaning and degrading them, that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. So,
So, Josh, just so you know, the way the chat works is if it is disabled, unless they changed it in the last few updates, when you create the link, it's not possible to open it up during the meeting. Just so you know, like if you go that way, it's one of those things you decide when you make the link and you commit to it through the entire meeting.
okay. Do you know, is there a way with these to silence somebody?
You can remove them. I don't know if there's a way to silence someone because quite early on in the use of Zoom in the school year, there were a few things that triggered our site to just say the chat is completely disabled. And everyone had to change their settings to that so that, you know,
Yeah.
TK through fifth grade. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Understand. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that is something to consider, that we should consider
Are
something.
you talking about for planning commission?
Yes, or if not disabling the chat.
Censor it or some degree.
Well, I mean, I can definitely, if that's something the commission wants to consider, I can look into that and see if that's what you guys would like to do, we could do that. And we just.
I mean, I
disable
don't
it.
have a problem with not disabling the chat. I just want to know how to control unruly members that are in the chat.
Well,
That
you can't really control the chat. You can only silence folks. Like, for instance, CSM John is considered a panelist right now. You could remove him from being a panelist
okay.
on the webinar version and they cannot speak.
Okay.
So if you remove them, that takes them out, they cannot re-access the meeting. But if
Okay.
you basically you're demoting them back to an attendee and they go back in line.
Hey, do you want to try with me? I mean, I'm over here. Like you can experiment with me.
But
Well,
disabling,
well, it's
let
not
me
that, it's,
clarify, disabling the chat would not eliminate someone's ability to participate via raising their hand or something, would it?
no, not at all.
Correct. They can raise their hand. You can allow them to unmute. I believe the reactions feature is on, so, they can, oh, it's not actually. They can raise their hand. If you enabled the reactions, feature, there's the celebration, there's the hand clapping, there's the thumbs up that they could give, nonverbal responses.
But it would in no way affect their right and ability
No.
to participate.
No.
Just not to be
No.
an infraction.
It would just limit, it would limit the way that they were allowed to interact.
Okay.
So, if the chat were completely turned off, then everything has to be said in open, like I'm doing with you right now.
So I
They're
can look,
gonna-
if that's what the commission would like to entertain, I can follow up and see if that's okay, and we can do that.
What's the
Do you mind if I speak on this for just a moment?
Yes, go ahead.
Larry.
Please.
Sure. So yeah, just like what Sarah's saying, it's a basic it's either on or off. However, you can use the questions and answers function. If like someone doesn't want to speak, they can submit their question, and then the moderator would see that, and then they could read it out loud, right? So that is another avenue as well.
And that would not, the question and answer thing is separate from the chat. So you could
That's
just
right.
chat, but still have the Q&A?
Yep.
Yeah.
And only the moderator would see, this.
Okay.
Yeah, that is true. It's not something that we use, but yesterday we had an assembly and the link was created by the BMX person who was doing it, and he was the host, the moderator. I was a co-host and the assistant principal was a co-host. But as the kids were asking questions and sending them in, we did not have access to that. I didn't even know it wasn't there. So it would just be the moderator that could see that.
Okay, what's the consensus of the commission? Do we want to leave it as is? Or
I'm not real sure exactly what the was. I mean, I didn't.
they
I can
were,
only imagine.
yeah.
And I just want to caution that as trivial as this conversation is, it's not an agendized item. So I just want to make sure that we're not making any decisions that shouldn't be made at this time, because there may be someone from the public that wants to use the chat function that may not have the opportunity. So I just want to make sure so if it's something that the commission may want to consider, I can bring it back.
Yeah, bring it back.
At least so
please.
you guys have the ability to discuss it. It's on there, and then I can find out more information about disabling it. So if you guys can, I can report back, say, hey, you guys can do what you want, disable it, not disable it, and then you can make a decision, and then we're good to go from there.
That works.
That sound good?
Yeah, I like the idea
Yes.
that you're kind of having control over it.
Department reports.
I have none, but if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer anything from a department report. We have a lot going on. We're starting a bunch of water projects with our issuance of the bonds. So our bonds we have the money available now for our water bond projects.
Oh, good.
Plus we have a bunch of street projects that are going to be starting soon, like Sunset, Polk Street. If you notice, there's a couple guys going around town with a couple shop vacs and a generator and a saw, cutting sidewalks and eliminating lips all over. He was actually right out in front of City Hall today. I sat out there. He probably thought I was crazy. I was sitting watching him do it, and it was pretty interesting. So it's good to see a lot of that ADA improvement. I mean, as small as it is, it makes bigger impacts rather than spending thousands of dollars. So we're trying to do that. So they're in District 2 right now, and then we're going to be they're continuing to do their analysis in each district, and then hopefully they will have funding every year that we're going to continue to do that in each district. So I can't remember how many locations we had in District 2. Larry, do you remember how many we had in District 2? Yeah, so 2,000 locations that they're fixing. And then we're going to have a lot of locations with the ADA project, the big ATP project that's going to be by the schools. That's going to be going out to bid here in the next month or two. So we're going to see we're going to see a lot of activity around the schools and the surrounding neighborhoods this summer as well. So the town will be tore up for a while. We got a lot of projects in the queue. So, but it's good. It's good tore up.
Yeah. Yeah. Any
So-
questions for Sean?
Yeah, but any
Yeah,
questions?
do you, I know some places monitor the water treatment plants for signs of COVID. Do we do that here?
No, and from what we understand from the CDC, COVID does not transmit through the water. So it cannot be detected through the water, through the treatment. It doesn't.
That's a big European thing.
Well, it doesn't survive through the treatment process. Based on our process, it does not survive through the process. And from when it leaves the plant to getting to someone's tap, there's no way for COVID to actually be contaminated into the water system. So it's kind of a closed system before it comes out of your hose or your tap or wherever it's going. Because there's the process, the treatment process kills it. That was something we talked about early on with when we did some research. We were doing a lot of research, and that was when we started putting Q&A together and everything. When it first started, that was one of the big things: is, oh, can it go through our water? No, it can't. We'll be fine.
I have a question. Whatever happened to our brewery?
You know what? As far as I know, they are making some beer.
they?
Because of the restrictions, they haven't been able to open, but my understanding is they're looking to hopefully open soon, if possible. But they have been, trying to do some test beers and, trying to produce beer there. They just haven't been able to get to the point of opening, I think. And a lot of it just has to do with
Did they make all the repairs to the building?
as far as I know, all the repairs are done. They've done some other renovations, but as far as I know, they've pretty much got majority of the renovations complete.
Yeah, I drove by there, I think one time in the summer, and there were people out there grilling and, having a nice little barbecue. And so I stopped in and, just chatted with him, and he was, he showed me the place and gave me, it was really good. And, was just ready to do small things whenever COVID would allow that. And, but he was
I
still
guess I-
looking forward to,
I guess I haven't gone by there.
yeah,
Where's he from? San Jose?
San Jose, yeah.
I have another question. Maybe you can answer. Have a Heart, it has been sold to some other company?
Yes, High Times has renewed their license, and
Mike-
so they will probably be rebranding here pretty soon.
I didn't know how to bring this up, but what happens to their parking spaces out here at the,
Well, considering they never were used, and
And
it
they're-
never really, when we did this, it was difficult to kind of gauge like how much traffic we were going to get. And what we kind of anticipated was we're a little bit further out, so delivery is going to be the driver of a lot of business. Most like, I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. I don't know if it's going to be necessary or not to continue that moving forward.
that's a
Because I don't think I've seen a car parked in there since they
I've yet to
opened.
see one parked there.
It's just that we're not seeing the impacts that, folks
Is there a
assume.
way to undo the deal or?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much like an annual kind of requirement to lease out the space and pay the city.
Okay, that's just my question.
No problem.
I have a question. The city council at one of the last couple meetings, said that they were gonna start, opening up for in-person audiences in April. Is that, something that we're considering? Not that we have a whole lot of attendance, but
Yeah, I can talk to Marissa. We'll see how it goes. I think with council, it depends on the logistics on how they were planning to do it. I want to see how Marissa does it first to
Okay.
see if that's something we can do for planning commission, because it just adds another layer of administrative oversight. And so I want to see how it goes with her.
Sean, you do everything. All you need is just one more hat to make that happen on meeting nights.
Yeah, no kidding. So we know we'll see how it goes, and then if it does, then it might be something that if the commission's comfortable with, then we might be able to look at that as well. So I'll talk to Marissa about that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, one last question. Do we have numbers, how many people in Klinga have been vaccinated and or what the percentage is? Do we follow that at all?
I do not know. I wouldn't be the bearer of that information.
Present, nobody?
Yeah, I don't even know. Yeah, like
If you look like the Fresno Bee, I don't know if it's daily or a couple times a week, they will update COVID cases per county, how many people have been vaccinated. Fresno County, Madera, Kings, Tulare, Kern, San Joaquin, Stanislaus, they all have numbers on how many COVID vaccinations have been distributed in their counties. Fresno does not.
Okay.
As a Fresno County resident who got his through Tulare County, I can tell you that Fresno County is pretty messed up.
It's well behind the uptake, huh?
County Health Department stats on it. They had a much better dashboard, and then they changed it maybe a month or two ago just in terms of updates, and it's hard to get any kind of
So,
information about anything.
so with ambiguous numbers, it's hard to make policy regarding that.
I had my vaccination through Kings County.
I didn't get mine through Fresno County.
Good.
Then the vans that are out here now still doing the testing.
Yep.
We have a
Yep.
sense how long that's gonna.
I'm not
Nobody
sure.
knows. Okay.
Yeah, Marissa.
You know
Marissa's
what?
more in tune to that.
The original plan was for them to be there at least through the end of March. That's what it was originally stated as, but I don't know anything about if it will continue past then.
Anything further? Any announcements?
2 weeks, or you know?
I don't think so. I've got a couple applications that have come in, so we're processing. I've got about actually 3 applications. We're still working on the Heritage Senior Living Facility there on Phelps. The environmental review comments are due, I think, by the end of this week, and so we'll probably start preparing. It'll probably be the end of April for those hearings because we're still fleshing out some of the phasing on that project and working with the developer because it looks like they're going to be moving forward with the subdivision side first, so the housing portion first, because there's senior apartments and there's also the Alzheimer's and assisted living facilities. So we're still fleshing out some details, and so probably in the second meeting in April. I don't know yet if we're going to have one in that first meeting of April, if any of the applications are ready yet. But I will let you know.
Perfect. All righty, and then with that, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.